Greetings. I have learnt that it is a fool that believeth a conspiracy theory, but it is a wise man that believeth the truth about the conspiracy. The word conspiracy is in the written word of God. In the days of what is known as the kings of Israel, those kings were the kings of the 10 tribes that were taken from Solomon, his son, when Solomon sinned. And it is written, and the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea. And here is the word. Conspiracy. It is in here. It is a good word. But the way evil will work is they must bond a good word with an evil word. Conspiracy theory. Well, that is foolish. Foolish man shall follow any theory, even if it is a conspiracy theory. But the wise man, he shall know the truth, and he will understand the conspiracy. In the days of Judas Maccabeus, the days of his father and his brethren, they were very evil, wretched people. In the flesh, they were of Israel, but in the spirit, they were evil. They did not care how many Jews had to die in order for them to have their power. So, what is this having to do with today? Well, today, or not so much in our day as it was in the late 1800s, a movement began. Two movements began. One was this book was taken out of what people call the King James. Why was this book and others taken out? Late 1800s. That was the first thing. Then, something called the Zionist movement began after. People have to be trained to think a certain way. It can be for good and it can be for evil. But we all must be trained, whether a man or a child. The proverb is telling us, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he shall not depart. But the same can be said if he is trained for evil. So the training began, convincing, and even before the book was taken out, they of course had to call the book something else. Those words up there, that was part of the conspiracy. Get the people to believe these books are less than the written word of God. But first they had to do it with that word. Then eventually they had to rip it out. The Lord shall judge them. So, we have the Protestants and these that call themselves Jews, but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. And many of my people have suffered greatly, as well as Christians, because of what these Protestant so-called people and these Zionists have done together. So in the days of Judas Maccabee, there was a man, Jason. He was the brother of Onias, and he labored underhand to be high priest. Onias was a good man. Jason was a wretch. But he was underhandedly working against his brother. Is that not so similar in our day? And what is it that he did? He promised unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and another revenue, 80 talents. Besides this, promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him a place for exercise and for the training up of the youth in the fashions of the heathen. What is the purpose of the Zionist state? It is not a kingdom. Did not the disciples ask the Lord, is it at this time, Lord, that thou shalt restore the kingdom unto Israel? The kingdom, not a Zionist nation, by the authority of the King of England, so that they could do what was done back here. If we find the history, if we find what happened in the past, there is nothing new under the sun. We can see it being worked out very similar to how it did in the past. This is why the book of Maccabees was taken out. This is why the people had been convinced for years before it was taken out that these books are less. So, when the king had granted and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekist fashion. What happened in the Zionist state? Whose fashion is that government run by? Like parliamentary procedure, England. Nothing new under the sun. Who is talking about this? Who is putting this together? Who is revealing this? The Lord. The Lord revealed to Judas Maccabee thousands of years ago. And now the Lord is revealing to you, to me, that it happened again. Many Jews died, many, because of this wretch. And many Jews died because of another wretch. Judgment will come. But they allowed millions of Jews to die so they could have their Zionist state. Who is saying that? Everybody is debating. Did the Holocaust? Did it happen? How many died? The question is, why? And why is it even called a Holocaust? Because it was used to bring forth the Zionist state of Israel, which is not Israel. And this wretch was granted royal privileges, special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassadors to Rome for amity, aid. He took away and putting down the governments which are according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law. That Zionist state is not run by the law in this book. How is it run? By the heathen law of England. For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. Sounding familiar? Ever see religious men wearing their hat, covering their head as the heathen did? Because it was the fashion. Now such was the height of Greek fashions and increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest. So the next time, remember these words. Those that wear the hat, they are only following the heathenish ways, and many of them do not even know. But this book that was taken out will tell them the truth. And also the priests had no courage to serve anymore at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise after the games of discus called them forth. What happened in the Zionist state at the beginning? The religious Jews, they were against it. They knew it had to be a kingdom. They knew Messiah must come back to bring forth again the kingdom. But what is happening today? These religious Jews are slowly seeking power in that Zionist state. There is one in particular. Find out who is a part of that particular part of the religious Jews, and you will marvel. Not everybody is who we think they are. We all shall be revealed for who we are. So, also, in the book that was taken out, we have something else that was happening. And it is this. At that time, after a 2-year period had expired, the heathen king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them. But all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. What that was, they were clearing out the true Jews for this to happen. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the woman and children took they captive, and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men. That is the Zionist nation. But only today, it was not the Jews that were taken out. They had been scattered. But the Lord made a promise to Israel. He said, because you have not taken out the Canaanites, as I have said, I shall keep them in the land, and they shall be for trouble for you continuously. So these people that are called Palestinians, I do not know where and how they began being called that name. But many of them are known by a different name that nobody is calling them. Canaanites. Canaanites. That is why they cannot be taken out of the land. They are Canaanites. But the name was changed to Palestinians. Always change the name and deceive the people. But the Lord made a promise. He will keep them in the land. So, what do we have here? We have a conspiracy truth that went back even before the book of Maccabees was taken out. They began to subtly, as I had mentioned, use the word apocrypha. But eventually, they had to rip those books out. Now, here are a couple things. One is, when there is time, study this declaration, the Balfour Declaration, and that will understand why all those Jews had to die. Were they murdered by the Nazis? Well, they carried it out, but because of this declaration. So remember, do not debate whether the Holocaust happened, whether it did not happen, what the name of it should be. But no, because of this doctrine and the desire to have this doctrine fulfilled, the world had to be sad at so many Jews dying that they would be given a Zionist state. Here is another thing to look at. Whether this is the date that it was taken out, 1885, or similar to that, I cannot confirm. I can only show that it is written here. But what I do know is that they did take it out. And finally, the history of Zionism. And there it is, late 1800s. So we have all these working together, no different, very similar to this book. When a wretch known as Jason underhandedly killed his brother and became high priest, who is giving the Zionist state the right to speak for us Jews? Who gave them the right? They are Zionists. They are not Jews. Look at their history. They began as terrorists. Look up the early so-called fathers and learn how they would kill British soldiers. It is there in the record. And yet, seek to speak these words. And all of a sudden, even as a Jew, we are called anti-Semites. But they are the anti-Semites. They are the haters. We are revealing the truth, and they hate it when we do. But I know I am a Jew, and I love my people, and I love those that are not Jews that have entered in to the Commonwealth of Israel. But that nation is not the kingdom. That nation is a nation that shall be judged so heavily as Israel was judged for not putting their neck under the yoke of King Nebuchadnezzar. So this nation shall be judged for doing the same as Jason did, allowing so many Jews to be murdered. And even after that, so many sons and daughters to fight to keep that Zionist nation alive. All for what? So the bankers can own central banks throughout the whole world? Is it worth it to, in the end, be in the lake of fire, the second death? Is it worth it? It is not. But my people perish for lack of knowledge. Learn these things, because not only is it happening to the Jews, it is happening in this nation of the United States. Conspiracies are everywhere, but only can they be revealed by the truth. Only by shedding the darkness with the light, with the truth. They hate the truth. They will fight against the truth, but have courage. Have courage and know the truth shall always defeat the lie. Be well.